Hey friends, welcome back to Movies in a Bottle, where today we're breaking down Ben Affleck's Batman audition. 90s kids like myself remember the 2003 Daredevil as a incredibly larger-than-life action movie with intriguing characters and a compelling story. Your mileage might vary if you're older, but does this movie hold up as well as I remember? Stick around to the end and we'll find out, and while we're breaking down the movie, I will be sharing all the comic Easter eggs and trivia with you along the way. This movie begins towards the end of our tale with the police closing in on Daredevil as he's gravely injured descending from the church rooftop. Father Everett, being our first Easter egg, comes over to check on Daredevil. He was named after Bill Everett, the original artist for Daredevil. He lifts his mask to see who's underneath, and it's none other than Matt Murdock, the man who's effectively been a son to him. As this revelation is happening, Daredevil tells us that it's true. Life does flash before your eyes whenever you're close to death, even for the blind. We go back to Matt's humble beginnings growing up as a kid in Hell's Kitchen. A few bullies jump him on his way home, telling him that his dad works for the mob boss Fallon. One of them clocks him hard and splits his lip, but he's able to flee successfully. Back at home, we see Matt's dad, Jack Murdock. He's a boxer who's got one foot out the door, but back in his day, he used to be a real contender. While helping him to bed, Jack notices the split lip on his son's face and asks him what happened. Matt confesses that the bullies were saying that his dad works for Fallon, but of course, Jack denies everything. And after a heart-to-heart, he makes his son promise to not grow up afraid and not grow up to be like him. One day, Matt took a shortcut home from school, and then he learned that the bullies were right. His dad did work for Fallon. Matt's image of his father shattered, and whenever Jack noticed him, he shouted, but Matt was already running away. Unfortunately, in his distress, Matt ran to a construction site carrying biohazard chemicals, and while running around, he caused an accident resulting in some of it to splash into his eyes, leaving him blinded forever. When Matt eventually woke up in the hospital, he was completely overwhelmed by the sharpness of his other four senses. While he was left blind, his other senses were so strong that he had radar-like detection as well as other powers. At first, the sounds from Matt's hospital overwhelmed him, but soon noises from the entire city drowned in, overloading his senses. It wasn't until Matt heard the church bell ringing that he was able to hone in on that and find peace. Jack does the walk of shame and apologizes to Matt for everything, and of course, his son forgives him. From there, the two make a silent promise to be fearless, to never give up, and stick up for the long shots like them. Then they go on a training montage where Matt develops the skills that would lead him to later become Daredevil, and Jack seems like he's a serious contender once again. During the training montage, we get the obligatory Stan Lee cameo, who is the co-creator of Daredevil along with Bill Everett. Director Mark Steven Johnson said in the making of that his biggest concern was pleasing the fans. Then he completely sidelined Stick during all of this. Make that make sense. Matt runs into the same three bullies who are totally cool 3v1ing a blind kid, but Matt kicks their asses and ends the fight with a quick flash kick. Jack is getting ready for his big fight, and Fallon drops in to tell him that he needs to take a dive. Jack tells him to take a hike, but then Fallon tells him that Miller, Mack, and Bendis, all fighters he just beat, were really his guys. Those names were Daredevil writers, being Frank Miller, David Mack, and Brian Michael Bendis, and you may also recognize Fallon as Hector Salamanca from Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul. Fallon leaves him with one more threat, and when it comes time for him to take the dive, he hears Matt shouting for him and he doesn't do it. Instead, he gets up and knocks out his opponent. He dedicates this fight to his son, and the two share a beautiful father and son moment, but Fallon leaves with a sinister look on his face. Matt is waiting outside for his dad, but whenever he leaves, Jack runs into the mob, who beats him down. Of course, Matt can hear this, so he runs over to try to help his dad, but before he gets there, an unseen figure delivers the final fatal blow. All that was left for Matt to find was the signature calling card of the Rose, but he would keep the promise that he made to his dad, Jack the Devil Murdock. A lot of time has passed, and we see an adult Matt wake up from his sensory deprivation tank. We see him get ready for work, and of course he is the blind lawyer from Hell's Kitchen, and today he is trying Jose Quesada. He is our next name Easter egg, where Jose Quesada is standing for Joe Quesada, a former Marvel executive. At the trial, we see Quesada is there because he essayed Matt's client. He says that he didn't do it, but using his powers, Matt sees that of course he's lying, and Matt threatens that he better hope justice is served that day. Unfortunately, the jury believes him. Matt and Foggy are wondering how Quesada got such good legal help, but they deduce that it must be the mysterious Kingpin. Foggy asks his friend if he wants to drink about it, but Matt tells him that he's busy tonight, as we get our first epic suit-up. We then see Daredevil use his incredible skills, heightened senses, and total lack of fear to navigate the city of New York and make his way over to Quesada. He's in the middle of toasting the legal system and bragging about how great Fisk is when one of his guys notices Batman perched up in the rafters. With vengeance in his voice, he tells them that he's here for justice, then the bullets start flying. After a series of really stylish moves and armed with only his trusty billy clubs, Daredevil's able to take down all the bad guys and continue chasing after Quesada. Thinking it would offer him a lot of places to hide, Quesada runs into the subway, but Daredevil's able to use his powers and hone in on him instantly.
Quesada tries to plead that he was found innocent, but Daredevil knows better. Unfortunately, a train shoots past, disorienting him before he can deliver any justice. And then what I would consider an entire character assassination of Daredevil, he lets Quesada get ran over by the train. Later that night at this scene, reporter Ben Urich shows up to the detectives, telling him that he thinks this was Daredevil. They deny it initially, but he shuts him up whenever he uses his cigarette to reveal his symbol in the flames. Daredevil returns home to a pretty lonely-looking apartment, and he checks the voicemail, and he gets dumped by his now ex-girlfriend, Heather.
There's a 2-for-1 special on Easter eggs. Claudine Farrell, Colin Farrell's sister and assistant at the time, was the voice on the voicemail. It's also a reference to Daredevil being dumped by Heather in Frank Miller's 1980s run.
Sadly, this seems pretty par for the course, as Matt seems unfazed as he returns to his sensory deprivation tank. Matt sees Father Everett at his weekly confessional, and the two discreetly discuss his activities as Daredevil. He doesn't seem to approve, but he forgives him nonetheless. Next, Matt has coffee with Foggy, who also seems to disapprove of Daredevil, even though he doesn't know it's Matt, and they also disagree on who their clientele should be. Foggy reminds them that they're supposed to have a moral vacuum to attract all clients, but Matt seems to only serve the hard-working innocent, which leaves them pretty strapped for cash. Since they're not seeing eye to eye, Foggy tries to play a prank on Matt, making him put mustard in his coffee, but their conversation is cut short when an absolutely stunning woman walks in. Foggy tries to convince his friend that she's absolutely hideous, but while he's ogling, Matt quickly switches the coffee. Matt rolls a nat 20 on charisma, and when the prank time bomb goes off, causing Foggy to do a spit take, he rolls another nat 20, saying he's never even seen him before. Matt introduces himself, and she gives a slight smile, but she leaves anyways without giving him her name. Then Matt, seemingly not very good with rejection, chases her down the streets of New York City. He's able to catch up with her at a playground, and she says that she doesn't like being followed, so she blows him off again. He goes to grab for her, and she says that she really doesn't like being touched, so then she shoves him off. But she's totally surprised when the blind guy knows how to fight and turns the move around on her. They have another very quick exchange, then she wants to know if he's really blind, and he wants to know if she's sure that he can't have her name. She doubles down, and they both seem pretty excited to fight, and then their sparring is complete with all the acrobatic stunts all over the playground equipment. The duel is finally ended when she pins Matt to a bench with a decisive kick and shares that her name is Elektra Nachios, again with a smile. We quickly shift gears and go to a penthouse where a behemoth of a businessman seems to be getting some bad news about people speculating on the identity of the Kingpin. We see him having a meeting with Elektra's dad, who's also concerned about the investigation into the Kingpin, and he wants to be bought out. However, the Kingpin doesn't seem very interested in letting him out, so he only threateningly asks him, "How is your daughter?" Meanwhile, with Matt and Elektra, she's in the middle of explaining to him that she trained with a different sensei every year since she was 5, and after he catches her from stumbling on a curve, she finally thinks to ask, "How did you do that? How did you do the park?" And then he gives the most hand-wavy explanation ever, saying that he was an orphan growing up in Hell's Kitchen, so he had to look after himself. That's a double character assassination since they were both trained by the same guy. After leaving the meeting with Nachios, Wilson Fisk tells his right-hand man, Wesley, to put a paper trail that leads back to Nachios. And if the press want to have a kingpin, he'll give him a kingpin. Then he calls Bullseye. We see that Bullseye has superhuman marksmanship, and he's a pretty chill dude because whenever the guy he wins a bet against calls him an Irish piece of trash, he kills him. Bullseye is played by Colin Farrell, who actually got to use his own Irish accent for the first time in an American film here. With his next act of kindness, Bullseye helps this talkative old lady next to him on the plane have a nap by lodging a peanut in her throat while she's chatting. When Matt gets into the office the next day, his secretary Karen Page, aka Dr. Meredith Grey from Grey's Anatomy, tells him that he got an invitation to the black and white ball from Elektra. He tells Foggy that he's not going to go, and his buddy senses that he's bummed out and asks if this is about Elektra. Matt says that she's out of his league and he'd rather end something before it can start, and then his friend rightfully calls him out on his crap. Later that night, Matt notices Elektra is the one following him home this time, and soon the two are on a date at Matt's secret rooftop getaway. He notices her necklace, and she says that it's from her mom for luck, and he wants to know if it comes in Braille. After bringing up her mom, Elektra starts to pull away, but he convinces her to stay because it's about to rain. She's confused at first, but when the rain does fall, we see from his point of view that he can see her perfectly in the rain, and they share a kiss. He's interrupted by hearing the chaos in the streets about the Kingpin.
I have to go. I'm sorry.
It belongs to the Kingpin now.
Matt and Foggy are attending the event whenever they run into the reporter Ben Urich. They're discussing Ben's recent stories about Daredevil and the Kingpin, and he goes to give him his card, and oops, Butterfingers, he knocks his walking stick to the ground. Ben studies it for just a moment before handing it back to Matt, and this is just as Wilson makes his entrance. Of course, Foggy goes over to talk to him, trying to get a lucrative client, but Matt shuts it down before they can exchange cards, saying that they only represent the innocent. Wilson tells them both that nobody is innocent before excusing himself. Foggy starts to lay into Matt, but he's left speechless as Elektra walks into the room. Matt does another signature Batman thing and leaves unnoticed as Foggy's talking to him and makes his way over to Elektra. The two have a lovely dance together, and she even admits that she only got dressed for this thing to look beautiful for him.
Quickly checking in with Bullseye, who's stealing a motorcycle, we get a blink and you miss it cameo of Frank Miller cast as Man with Pen and Head. Ouch.
Meanwhile, Wilson Fisk is paying Elektra's dad a visit, and he delivers to him one of the signature roses, causing him and Elektra to leave in a panic. Elektra tries to ask her dad what's going on, but she sees Daredevil running on the rooftops ahead, and suddenly their car crashes due to Bullseye taking out the driver. Daredevil jumps down to get between everybody, and he pisses Bullseye off whenever he dodges one of his blades, causing him to miss. Bullseye charges right at Daredevil, but it's okay because he remembers the inputs to Flash Kick. Oh no, Bullseye stole one of Daredevil's billy clubs, and he throws it right at Elektra's dad. He almost saves him, but the explosion from the motorbike nearby causes him to get disoriented at the worst time. Elektra's dad is fatally struck, and since it was his billy club, she blames him. He has to escape narrowly dodging gunfire, and he ends his night in a fit of rage back at his apartment. He sees Elektra again at the funeral, and he asks her to stay with him. She says all she wants is revenge, and this time when the rain starts pouring, she hides herself under the umbrella and leaves him standing in the rain. Fisk watches in the distance with smug satisfaction after leaving another calling card rose on the casket. We see Ben following up on a Daredevil lead where he sees forensic assistant Kirby. This is the last of our naming cameos and another double Easter egg, with Kirby being Jack Kirby, who did various Daredevil covers, and the character being played by Kevin Smith, a Daredevil writer. They've recovered one of Daredevil's billy clubs, and while initially unimpressive, Kirby does a couple of movements and turns it into the walking stick. Kirby thinks it's pretty weird, but Ben tells him he has no idea. Bullseye drops by to see Kingpin helping a couple of guards take a nap because they look tired, and he tells them that he wants to kill the devil for making him miss. Kingpin cautions him, saying that he's heard this before, but before he goes after Daredevil, he needs to take out Elektra. Matt is walking around when Ben drops by and announces himself. He says that he knows who it is, but Matt asks what does he want. Ben says that he's here to warn him about the Kingpin, that whenever he goes after someone, he goes after their whole family. Geez, okay, Daredevil is really bad at keeping his secret identity, saying that he already recognized him, and this is all after Fisk had killed his dad and not went after Matt. So that is pretty loose writing, but anyways, checking in with Elektra, we see her training while wielding her iconic sai. At the same time, Daredevil is getting ready to try and save her from Fisk's assassin, while she's mistakenly on a path to try and kill him. Daredevil is prowling the rooftops of Hell's Kitchen looking for Bullseye, but unfortunately, Elektra finds him first. He isn't fighting back while he's doing his best to explain that he was set up. Too bad for him, though, that she's a total badass and stabs him through the shoulder. She lifts the mask to see the eyes of her father's killer, and when she does, she finally realizes her mistake. The moment is interrupted by Bullseye, and she sets her sights on him. She holds her own for a bit, but sadly, she's no match for him. Before Daredevil can recover from his injury, Bullseye fatally stabs her with her own sai and tosses her to rest in front of Daredevil.
Bullseye killing Elektra is actually based off of Frank Miller's issue number 181 of The Man Without Fear. Although there, Bullseye killed Elektra to reclaim his top spot as Kingpin's assassin.
Bullseye drops the rose calling card and escapes while Elektra passes in Matt's arms. The police storm the rooftop, but Elektra is the only one there by the time they arrive. We finally come full circle to where the movie begins, and we see Bullseye enter the church by giving Father Everett a warning shot to leave. He tells Everett to run and have faith while the fight starts. Daredevil and Bullseye have a tough battle that leads into the upper levels of the church. While up there, Daredevil dodges a series of glass shards thrown at him, but Bullseye adapts quickly and uses the loud instruments against Matt. While gloating over him, Bullseye admits that Fisk is the Kingpin and he's been behind the rose calling cards this whole time. He goes on to confess that he was hired to kill Elektra and her dad, but he's killing Daredevil for free. Bullseye is about ready to deal the final blow against Daredevil, but Daredevil hears a gun about ready to be fired and he pulls back, making sure that Bullseye's hands are hit. Bullseye asks for mercy, and in another character assassination, Daredevil throws him out the window. Meanwhile, over at Fisk Tower, Wilson sends all of his guards home, and when Wesley objects, Wilson says that he was raised in the Bronx, and it's something that he wouldn't understand. Hey, good enough for me, so soon enough Daredevil is there for the epic final showdown and he quickly learns that he's at a disadvantage. Kingpin's huge and he's never fought somewhere like this before, so he's knocked down pretty quick. Kingpin unmasks him and laughs after seeing Daredevil is really the blind lawyer from Hell's Kitchen. Daredevil asks why he killed the only two people he ever loved, and Kingpin says it's just business. Daredevil thinks about Elektra and gets a second win, so he breaks the pipes connected to the sprinkler system. Now that he can see Fisk clearly, he's able to fight back. It doesn't take long for Matt to take down the Kingpin and have him at his mercy. Daredevil finally draws the line though and doesn't kill someone and says he's not the bad guy. He says he can hear all the police chatter from up there and they're all talking about the Kingpin, so he's leaving him for them. Naturally, the Kingpin promises to come for him, but Daredevil is able to finally bring his father's killer to justice. Later on, Matt and Foggy are at the coffee shop debating if Fisk will stay behind bars when someone reminiscent of Elektra walks in. The mood is now pretty somber, and Matt says that he doesn't want to talk and leaves. He goes back to his rooftop spot and says that he set out to save the city, but with Elektra's help, he saved himself. While there, he finds a familiar silver good luck charm, but this time it's in Braille and reads Elektra. This gives him faith that anything is possible. We close the movie with Ben deciding to delete his article revealing Matt's identity as Daredevil, and Matt vows to be the city's guardian devil. As our final Easter egg, this is the same name as a storyline from Kevin Smith, who we saw earlier playing Kirby. They recreated one of his covers in the final shot as Daredevil leaps through the city.
Okay, a couple after-movie wrap-up things. Michael Clark Duncan really wanted the role as Kingpin. He said he only read Daredevil comics that had the Kingpin in it, so he really wanted this whenever he was approached. He said he was trying to play it cool, but after he got the part, he popped off. Of course, the legendary actor passed away at the age of 54 back in 2012 due to heart problems. Hey, thanks for making it to the end of the video. If you like what you heard, don't forget to do the YouTube things, like and subscribe so we can discuss another movie next week. And if you really like what you heard, don't forget to go to the video description below to find a link to the Generation Video podcast. But that's all I have for you in this breakdown. Y'all be good. I'll catch you next time.